By popular demand, it's another tier list. Don't blame me, you asked for it. This time, I'm ranking every secondary weapon in Payday 3. I've really bigged this one up already, calling many secondaries as good if not better than their primary alternatives. As a result, you guys seem keen for another round of opinion sparring in the comments with yet another always contentious list. Once again, everything is viable, not you, and B is the point of balance. Compared to launch, the secondary offering has come a long way, expanding from just pistols and revolvers to now including machine pistols, burst pistols, and even the iconic revolver shotgun in the Judge. Mechanically, I'd argue the secondary slot now offers on aggregate the more impactful build-defining options, as supreme ammo economy, your dozer, sniper, and shield-killing utility is built into each weapon uniquely. So let's kick this list off with a mold-breaking all-rounder in the form of the starter pistol, the SIG-40. Don't sleep on this thing. It's very easy to write off as a weapon given to you for free when you load up the game, but don't let Payday 2's Shimano give the superior Signature 40 a bad name. The quintessential jack of all trades, this handgun offers middle-of-the-road damage, fire rate, and ammo pickup. It shares a feature of many of the game's secondaries in that it lacks any penetration, but packs substantial damage and a headshot multiplier on par with marksman rifles, making it elite for dealing with standard SWATs, really solid up against dozers, as ironically damage, not pen does the trick there, but falling off a viability cliff up against heavily armoured units later into any heist. The SIG-40 is no exception to this rule, killing most basic units in 3 to 4 easy to land headshots, whilst dropping to 5+ against heavies and their ilk. The 5x headshot multiplier falls off a cliff quite dramatically after 10 meters, meaning you do want to focus on close quarters combat wherever possible, but taking fewer than 20 shots to deal with a dozer at close range is a more than worthwhile trade-off when you see even the best ARs struggle to keep up. With joint best in slot partial reload time, and otherwise exceptional handling and recoil stats, it's just so damn functional for virtually all situations. An easy top B tier despite initial appearances. Then you see the SIG-403 and have to ask why it just copied the SIG-40's homework. I mean it, these two weapons have a hell of a lot in common. Same max damage stats, reload speed, and a similar feel. However, despite dropping off in terms of raw damage a little slower, giving it some advantages at that 25 meter range, and having improved capacity in terms of starting ammo and mag size, its lower fire rate is enough to make it a pale imitation of the starting pistol. That 20% DPS hit is more than enough to make it noticeably worse in most situations you'd normally be pulling out a pistol to deal with. Don't get me wrong, it's still so similar to the SIG it can hardly be called outright bad, but I find using it to be a tough sell when its more attractive older brother is so readily available. But maybe that just speaks for my tastes more than anything else. Anyway, a stable B tier that's punished all the way down to C for being so heavily outperformed by its direct competition. Get a bit of originality, 403. But if you think I'm mad at the SIG Pretender, you ain't seen nothing yet, as the SP Model 11 up next is one of my least favourite weapons in the entire game. In all honesty, it never recovered from the cutting shot changes as it needed that one-shot kill ability on standard SWATs to really compete in its damage category. Statistically, it looks fine with high damage and even some pen, but 0.5 is nowhere near enough to compensate once the heavies start rolling in. A 2-shot kill within 10 meters is all well and good, but as soon as that starts dropping off to 3 as early as 15 meters, its viability falls off a cliff. With a fire rate of just 300 RPM, that time to kill is even longer than you might first anticipate, and its awkward kick and visual recoil is not really proportionate to that milquetoast damage output. Needing more than a mag to deal with dozers really is the icing on the cake, as it often goes ammo negative and finds itself between a rock and a hard place in terms of competition. Totally outperformed by a certain one-shotting pistol I'll talk about later, while still unable to keep up with the functional handgun alternatives. I'd be quite happy to never run this thing in a loud build again. Outside of style points, especially if you're using Houston's preset signature variant, I don't see a reason to run the Model 11, and if that doesn't make it a bona fide D tier, I don't know what does. Moving on to yet another faster firing, easier to use alternative, the Stryk 7 is probably the strongest of the base game pistol arsenal right now. The damage and damage range it trades for ammo pickup, a potentially massive mag size, and best in slot handling stats including reload and swap speed is more than worthwhile. It hits virtually identical shot to kill threshold as the SIG-40, most importantly that 3-shot normal SWAT kill potential, and surprisingly rapid dozer deletion. It's the perfect sidearm for any build with a functional primary that wants a secondary to keep things ticking over and fill the gap between reloads. Most of the time I'm just as happy wielding either SIG alternative, but do believe the intangibles of the Stryk move it just ahead in the tier list, joining the SIG-40 in that upper B tier. However, the reason I was so careful to specify base game pistol when referring to the Stryk is up next. The Jackknife SE5 is far and away my favourite secondary in the game. I'd run it on virtually every build if I could, and to be honest the only thing stopping me is a drive for a change once in a while, because this thing does just about everything more than competently. With a genuinely ludicrous 125 damage stat, even without any built-in penetration, it reloads quickly, kills quickly, and does so from virtually any range. I mean, it 4-shot swats up to 50 meters away. Most primaries in this game would be envious of those stats. Up against bulldozers, it's one of the few weapons that can actually compete with shotguns, dropping them in just over a second. Somehow, even accounting for the weapon next on this list, which is even more ludicrous, this is my number one reason for picking up the Fear and Greed weapon pack. A dream of a handgun and one of the best feeling weapons in the franchise, easily slipping into the S tier. I've really given the Garstini Viper top billing now though, haven't I? This is where Payday 3's secondary balance went to die. Statistically, it is pretty much unmatched. The same damage as the Jackknife while packing a mighty 2.0 armor pen, you can expect a one-shot kill everything, including shields, through their visors, with a well-placed headshot up to 40 meters away. To try to keep it in check, they held its max headshot multiplier at 3 times, but that just means it's also a more than competent body shot weapon, two-shotting most cops in the game regardless of armor at the most common combat ranges. You will need to rock extended mags to kill dozers without reloading, which is one of this weapon's few drawbacks, but up against anything else, if your aim is on point, the Deagle is undoubtedly the best secondary, and debatably, just the best overall weapon in the game, taking over the top spot in S tier, and probably deserving a category of its own if I'm being honest. That doesn't stop me from preferring the Jackknife when putting together 90% of my loadouts though. Moving on from the traditional pistol category, during Houston Breakout, we finally started seeing some more unique secondary options that weren't limited to semi-auto handguns and revolvers. The Tribune 32 is the first of these fully auto machine pistol alternatives, offering almost SMG style stats. Where it really excels in my experience is up against snipers, pairing really nicely with the ultra powerful shotgun category at the moment. It has a really good extended mag attachment, rounding it up to 45 shots per reload whilst keeping that speed at just over 1.5 seconds for partial reloads. With extended mags, you can expect to 1-mag dozers, making it a better option than you might anticipate from stats alone. It is fairly rough going into shields and specials though. Undoubtedly, this thing fits a niche, but is still very much a secondary, not a pseudo-primary as with the previous two guns, placing it right at the point of balance in B tier again. So, a bit of rare context on this, I love the Picchio Duro, which is how you can know for certain that I'm trying to keep my bias in check as much as possible on this list. Like the Chenet in the primary slot, it's just too easy to pull a shot or two per burst, preventing it from hitting that 1 burst kill threshold, as it does need 3 headshots to deal with even the most basic of swats. Admittedly, when you do get it right, it feels like a pocket shotgun, as its excellent fire rate really does help making consecutive bursts feel like less of a drag. But for as good and satisfying as it can feel to use, it really can't make up for some comparatively torrid stats. As I say, decent pickup and quietly excellent fire rate are its saving graces, but unless, like me, you have a soft spot for burst weapons, you'd probably be better off using the Tribune, as the Raffica slots into a disappointing C tier. What I was not disappointed in was the revitalized Castigo's performance. This all-rounder is the first in the revolver category, which was the absolute secondary meta at the game's launch, but fell off a cliff when they decided to change cutting shot. Once it was given back its ability to one-shot kill even heavy swats with a well-placed headshot, with or without edge, it bounced back up to being one of the best options out there again. Revolvers will always be an acquired taste, with their lower fire rate punishing missed shots, and a slower reload speed making them much better candidates for hipfire and ammo funnel setups. But you really can't go wrong with a weapon that hits those key thresholds. Yes, it sucks to the body, but if you get enough head-clicking practice in, this weapon feels very consistent. Unfortunately, it's neither here nor there against dozers, so you will want to make sure you have a primary or overkill option against the big guys, holding this back to just A tier. The Bison, on the other hand, is just a bit of an anomaly. It's designed to fit a niche, missing out on that one-shot threshold unless you have edge active, in which case it's functionally very similar to the Castigo, with a bit better pickup and a notably faster fire rate. Unfortunately, it has one of the most alien-feeling recoil patterns in the game, going side to side more so than up and down. I find it really difficult to make use of that extra fire rate. With this in mind, missing headshots I'd surely be landing with other revolvers. Not to mention, for whatever reason, it has one of the slowest reload speeds in the game, making it even more reliant on ammo funnel. It's still a one-shot machine, which gives it some obvious viability if you like its unique feel, but I don't see a real reason for passing over the Castigo for it now, forcing it down into B. Where I am more split is regarding the Bullkick. This monstrously powerful revolver turned the secondary meta on its head when it released with Boys in Blue, only to be overshadowed by the deviant duo of the Jackknife and Deagle. 150 base damage, 2 armor pen, a one-shot kill machine. You can one-shot shields up to 50 meters even through their visors, and with Edge, you can even one-shot them to the body. In fact, that ability to one-shot really carries over to all enemy types barring dozers, making this a generally more forgiving get-out-of-jail-free option. However, with a really laboured fire rate, fitting for the kick it suffers, its kill potential is actually much lower than the other revolvers in this game. Forgiving, definitely, and in practice, with no one having perfect aim, I still think I'd place it marginally above the other two, if just for its immense utility against the tricky shields, but if you ever have a run-in with a dozer, you'll probably want to switch back to your primary. That's not even getting into the Garstini stealing its thunder one update later. Even so, this is another top option for variation, falling comfortably into A. And last but not least in the slightest, we have the Justicar, Payday 3's rendition of the Judge revolver shotgun. This is unlike any other secondary option in the game, and with shotguns being top tier in general, this design unsurprisingly has resulted in a very powerful weapon. It one-shot kills to the head from very forgiving ranges, aided by the fact it's firing scattershot pellets, and can even one-shot to the body. This thing also offers a tiny bit of extra stealth viability, with a slightly greater body launch than other weapons, but nothing like its Payday 2 forefather. However, it has some serious ammo problems on very hard and overkill, generally going ammo negative, which makes it much harder to rely on during standard gameplay. It's much better off being used as a specialist dozer deleter, seeing as it can tear through their faceplate in just 3 shots. A wonderful switch weapon, but I'm trying to not let recency bias get to me here. It's a perfect utility option for dealing with dozers, but there are many other alternatives for that job. An incredible weapon in the moment, but with primary shotguns being as good as they currently are, I'm inclined to stick to secondaries that are better over range in the current meta, meaning even though this is the ideal sidearm to pair with assault rifles, it can't breach S tier just yet, capping off the A tier. And that is my complete list, with the secondaries probably a little better on average than the primaries I discussed last week. Regardless, you know the disclaimer here. The game's pretty easy right now, the heisters undoubtedly have more tools at their disposal than the cops, and just about everything is viable as a result. Run what you want, you might even have more fun with a C tier weapon than an A or an S. Here's my full order for all weapons in the game if you're interested, ignoring the fact that primaries should be by nature stronger than secondaries on average. I'll now be returning to my tier list K for the foreseeable future. 2 of these in 1 month has put me on edge. With that all said, thank you so much for watching guys. Remember, I still have a range of top of the line Apex Gaming PCs, the link to which you'll almost always find at the top of the description. Take care, have a great week, let me know what changes you'd make to my personal list, and I'll see you all in the next video. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.